Chapter 413, Visitors. Inside the Rice Police Station, which was in charge of Minsk Street and the surrounding district. Klein shook hands with the officer who escorted him out. This threatening letter must have had something to do with the previous serial murders. The organizer of the detective team, the great detective, Mr. Isengard Stanton, has already been attacked this afternoon. Please take it seriously. The police officer retracted his hand and said, "Don't worry, Mr. Moriarty. We definitely won't ignore your suggestion and immediately report it to the higher-ups." "Thank you so much." Klein put on his hat and walked out the door. After seeing the 2 threatening letters and the provocation from the suspected Devil Dog's master, Klein didn't hesitate to bring the evidence to the nearest police station to report the case. He secretly hoped that the matter would be transferred to the mandated punishers or the machinery Hivemind team as quickly as possible so that he could be placed under the protection of official Beyonders. Although he no longer had any reason to keep his identity as a detective, being fully capable of giving up his residence at 15 Minsk Street and switching to another residence and identity, he suspected that this might have been the purpose of the author of that threatening letter. Using the fear of wild Beyonders being exposed, the perpetrator was forcing him to flee under the cover of the night. Then, during this process, he could seize the opportunity to launch an attack. "Actually, it's quite a suitable time to attack me while I was heading over to the police station to report the incident. It's the same as when I was at home. That fellow has other plans." Confused and wary, Klein returned to Minsk Street. As soon as he got out of the carriage, he saw a figure loitering in front of his house with the help of the street lamps amid the drizzle. Klein's heart skipped a beat, but he immediately relaxed as he recognized the visitor. It was Stuart, a slim private detective with a medium build, who adored him. "I can't be careless. What if the subsequent sequences of Devil has a power similar to Faceless?" Klein gripped his cane tight and slowly approached, then he gave a probing shout. Detective Stuart abruptly turned his head and nervously said, "Mr. Moriarty, I received a threatening letter. It said, 'All of you will die.'" "You received it as well," Klein blurted out in surprise while also finding it understandable. Stuart was also one of the detectives that Isengard Stanton had gathered for the investigation of the serial murders. Stuart's eyes widened abruptly. "You received it too?" "Yes," Klein nodded seriously. "More than one, actually." He added silently, "What should I do? I first went to visit Mr. Stanton, but I heard that he was attacked, so I immediately came to you." "Oh, thank God for his blessings. I was about to leave," Stuart blurted out. Klein pointed to the door. "Let's talk inside." After entering the living room, Klein excused himself to the bathroom and hurriedly went above the gray fog to perform 2 divinations. First, it was to confirm that the person was Stuart. And second, if there was any relatively serious danger that night. He received a revelation confirming both. In other words, Stuart wasn't the enemy in disguise, and it would be a night of considerable danger. Of course, that danger might not happen right in front of Klein, but someone might be wiped out in secret. That was the limitation of divination. All he could receive was a revelation of a certain degree, not the entire answer. He was unable to get a precise answer. Furthermore, the limitations in mysticism couldn't be solved by techniques such as exclusion or dichotomy. Returning to the real world, Klein pressed the mechanical button of the toilet bowl, and in the midst of the splashing water, he washed his hands and opened the door. "Stuart, would you like coffee or tea?" Klein asked in a completely composed manner. Stuart stood up and shook his head. "No, we should discuss the problem first. Although I've received many threatening letters in the past, none of them can be compared to what I received today. He must have written them using fresh blood. My intuition tells me that he'll definitely take action and that he has the ability to do so. By the way, Mr. Stanton was attacked by that same person, wasn't he?" "I think so," Klein said stoically before sitting down. "This likely has something to do with the previous serial murders. The common thing that you, me, and Mr. Stanton share in common is that case." Stuart's reaction is a little too extreme. Is he spooked out by the attack on Mr. Stanton? At the same time, Klein was carefully observing Stuart. Being infected by his attitude, Stuart calmed down significantly. He sat down again and said while deep in thought, "It seems to be the case." Before he could finish his sentence, tinkling sounds suddenly echoed in the room. Someone had rung the doorbell. Stuart instantly jolted, like a frightened bird. Klein frowned as he looked at him before getting up to head for the door. As soon as he touched the handle, the scene outside appeared in his mind. The visitors were Detective Kaslana in her gray tweed coat, her red-haired assistant, Lydia, and several other men who looked familiar. They're all the private detectives who Mr. Stanton had assembled, as expected. As Klein recalled, he recognized the visitors. He pulled open the door and took 2 steps back. With bushy eyebrows and slightly drooping cheeks, Kaslana looked at Klein and Stuart, who was behind him. Without exchanging pleasantries, she bluntly said, "We've all received the same threatening letter, so I believe you guys did too, right?" "Yes," Klein replied solemnly. Kaslana didn't shy away from exhaling a breath of white mist. "We were all assembled by Mr. Stanton to participate in the investigation of the serial murders. That's the only thing we have in common." "I think so too," Klein pointed inside his house. "Let's talk inside." Watching the 6 private detectives enter, Klein quickly analyzed the intentions of the Devil Dog's master. To stir up such a huge commotion, this will soon attract the attention of the official Beyonder organizations. Who knows, there might be a demigod powerhouse guarding this area, so how would he take his revenge? He's just being provocative, making the military and the Beyonders from the 3 churches send people to protect all these private detectives. With the official Beyonders not daring to be negligent, it will scatter personnel and exhaust them by making them run around. Is all this to take revenge on the main target of the attack from back then? In the process, he might even have a chance to kill some of the official Beyonders. As for the private investigators, he will only take action much later, once their wariness has relaxed. Of course, if probes such as this give an opening, then he definitely wouldn't let it go. To devils who can sense danger ahead of time, this is a method that plays on their strengths. However, the 3 churches, together with the military and the royal family, have many experts in sealed artifacts. They have no lack of demigods or grade 0 and grade 1 sealed artifacts. Is the master of the Devil Dog so certain that there are no powers or items that can restrain this strength of his? No, he definitely wouldn't dare. The official powers, especially the Nighthawks, mandated punishers, and machinery hivemind, have been fighting devils for who knows how many years. In the 4th epoch, even in the more ancient 3rd epoch, there was no lack of similar deeds. The master of the Devil Dog is at most a sequence 5. As long as anything goes wrong, to the point of nothing going wrong, he can be torn apart by a demigod or a terrifying sealed artifact. Why would he still dare to make such attempts? Or it could be said that he's simply toying with the officials and that he wouldn't act, doing it time and time again. Yes, there's another possibility. Using the threatening letter, he's able to get more than half the targets gathered together. Then, using the official Beyonder organizations, counterbalancing of each other and the procedural and bureaucratic tendencies create a time delay. The attack on Mr. Isengard Stanton must have been handed over to the machinery hivemind, who is in charge of supernatural affairs in Hillston Borough, but the ones who killed the Devil Dog were mainly comprised of the Nighthawks. The 2 organizations definitely don't communicate in detail too much. Well, it can also be assigned based on Mr. Stanton's faith. Which deity does he believe in? I don't seem to know, nor can I tell. In short, with so many private investigators living in different districts, and with different faiths, the division of jurisdiction is a troublesome matter, and joint operations aren't so easy to achieve. At this moment, the ones protecting us should only be 2 or 3 groups of official Beyonders. At the very most, they would be at the level of deacons, and they wouldn't use sealed artifacts which are too powerful or dangerous. Even a demigod high-sequence Beyonder wouldn't direct their gaze over to us that quickly. This would give the Devil Dog's master a chance. Although 3 to 4 groups of official Beyonders can definitely kill 1 or even more than 1 sequence 5, as long as he takes advantage of the situation, there's a good chance that he can successfully escape. Klein was able to deduce 2 or 3 possibilities in just 20 to 30 seconds, and giving each of them a preliminary opinion. Thinking of the divination outcome that indicated that there would be significant danger tonight, Klein thoughtfully nodded his head, closed the door, and entered the living room. He said to the sitting or standing detectives, "Have you called the police?" There are almost half of the people who were assembled back then gathered here. He surveyed the detectives and muttered inwardly. Representing the rest, Kaslana replied, "Some have called the police, while others have tried to find Mr. Stanton or familiar friends. Finally, all of us got together and discussed about visiting you, the great detective." Klein gently nodded and deliberately said, "Everyone, don't be too nervous. The person who sent the letter should be trying to get revenge for that serial murder, but he's only one person with at most 1 or 2 companions. As for us, we have a total of 8 detectives, all skilled in combat and shooting, so why should we be afraid of him? Besides, we were not the only ones assembled by Mr. Stanton, and it must be the same for those who received the threatening letters. They just didn't end up meeting you or come to visit me." Upon hearing his words, Kaslana and her assistant, Lydia, revealed doubtful expressions, as if they were unsure of something. Another detective took a deep breath. "Mr. Moriarty, perhaps it's as you say, we need not be afraid of him. But he's a sinister snake lurking in the dark. No one knows when he will launch an attack, and no one can guard against it in advance. Furthermore, he might even harm our family members." "Family members? Oh, my wife. No, my little angel." The detectives were instantly overwhelmed by their emotions as they exhibited exaggerated reactions. Standing behind Klein, Stuart was trembling with fear and anger. "No, I don't want that," he murmured, almost losing control of his emotions. Just as Klein and Kaslana attempted to calm them down, Stuart suddenly drew his gun and aimed it at the back of Klein's head. His eyes were glazed over, and his emotions seemed to have completely overwhelmed him.